Hi everybody, it's Cindy here. And last week I did a video on when our buttons get pushed, triggers in our life. And I had a large response to that, and many people requesting more information about how to deal with those. So they asked me to go in more depth. So that's what I'm going to do today. And so let's review a little bit about why this happens. Okay, so whenever you feel triggered, like whenever a button is getting pushed, how you know a button is getting pushed in your life or you're being triggered emotionally in some way is you have a reaction to it. It's anytime you feel a reaction to something you're witnessing or something you're hearing, anything at all, and you have like an emotional reaction to it. Now, our reactions can be internal, which means maybe our blood starts boiling, we start feeling like kind of angry inside. Or maybe we feel like, oh, we want to just go crawl in a hole. We kind of want to hide or withdraw. Or we feel like maybe we're going to, cry. Um, but we hold it in. You feel really sad or very insulted or just very upset about something. So, or we may have an external emotional reaction. We may actually cry. We may actually show that anger and lash out at another person or kind of lose our temper, um, anything like that. Or we may push somebody else's buttons back, like throw an insult somebody's way, something that we know will be insulting to them. Or we may run. We may avoid the situation and take flight, like we do when we have fear. So anytime at all, these are clues. Anytime at all you find yourself emotionally reacting in some way, your buttons are being pushed, or triggers. These are triggers in your life or buttons. We can call them either thing. Okay, so let's look a little deeper why these things happen. One of the example I gave last week was myself having an unresolved issue in my life, which was my discomfort with my body image, and how that's been one of my buttons or triggers in my life. So if somebody talks to me about, being overweight or, something like that, or I use the example of guy's not dating me because of it, or whatever, somebody giving me mean, unhealthy feedback about it, then, that triggers something for me because I haven't resolved that myself. It's not their fault. I mean, it's mine because I'm not resolved with that just yet. And so that's the good news, is when we have triggers and buttons, it's really within our control and power to do something about it. It's not somebody else's responsibility. But there are other reasons these things happen than just that. You may have been in a traumatic event in your life. Maybe you were in a car accident, or maybe you've been raped, or any kind of trauma. And then you're watching the television some night, or you go to a movie, or you're watching the news, and a traumatic event like yours is on the television or on the screen, or you hear about another news story, and it just brings it all up for you. It just, like, there comes your traumatic memories because you're witnessing somebody else's. So these can be huge triggers. Traumatic events, huge triggers. Another thing is grief. Grief is a huge area where we can get triggered or have buttons be pushed. For example, many years ago, I mean decades ago, I worked as a grief counselor, and we had a family whose two families who their little boys were playing in piles of leaves. The town we used to live in, we raked our leaves out onto the street, and then big trucks came along and picked them up every fall season. And one day, these two little boys that were friends were playing in the pile of leaves, and they were buried in the leaves, and the truck didn't see the boys and ran over them. and killed them both. And so a huge grief trigger for those people that knew those boys was every year when the leaves started to fall, every year when the leaves started to turn into fall, it would like be a really strong emotional button, big time trigger for their grief. Probably even still is, I would guess. And this was like 20 years ago, maybe longer. I don't remember what year it was, but actually it would have had to have been, yeah, it could be that long ago. But that doesn't make any difference, actually, in a lot of ways, especially with grief and trauma. So those are anything around death or extreme loss, and anything that reminds you of a loss or death or traumatic event can also be button pushers, triggers for you. Another one is unhealthy patterns in relationships, right? Often what happens, especially in partnerships, is people pick the same kind of person over and over again. Someone who's made up emotionally like the last person they were with, until you get really, really, really self-aware and conscious. And so you may be married to a person, and they may look at you, speak to you, or act in a way that triggers an old wound from a previous relationship in some unhealthy way. And so then you're reacting. You're reacting not only to the moment that you're in with the person, but you're reacting to all the other moments that you had with past people. That's why these are so loaded, right? And you feel something so instantly and so strongly until you've resolved all of these. So that's another thing to look for, is if you're in a similar unhealthy pattern in a relationship. Another thing is that we often have negative beliefs in the files in our head, and that they're usually developed in childhood. And I mean, this is kind of complicated, but I'll try to explain it briefly. We're born, and we're born pure love, perfect. There's nothing emotionally complicated about us when we're born. We're born free of all guck, right, and muck, as best we understand anyway. But over time, as we're parented and we go to school and we have adults around us who lovingly are trying to teach us limits and different things, can unknowingly give us the message that we're not okay somehow, that we're not okay in some way. And so for some children who have more of that going on than others, they develop a deep-seated belief that they are not good enough, that they don't deserve to be happy, and things like that. And these are deep negative belief patterns that start early and hang on until later when we get self-aware and we can change the beliefs. But we don't understand that this is what's happening when we're little. So then if you carry some beliefs like that in the back of your mind, in your subconscious or unconscious self, you can be triggered in your current life and feel very reactive to it. Like if somebody doesn't treat you right, doesn't understand you, you might think, oh, yeah, I'm not good enough. That's right. I don't deserve to be happy. So that's why this is not going well. And that can be a button or an issue that needs resolved. So there's lots and lots of examples and reasons why we have buttons. But the bottom line is, whether they're really obvious to you or not, whenever you are emotionally reacting to something, any kind of emotional reaction to something that's strong especially, it is an unresolved issue. It's a button, and it needs your attention. Okay, so how do we do this? How do we resolve these so they don't have to take over our lives, right? So the first thing is, I want you to catch yourself, catch the behavior, catch the reaction, realize, oh, I'm being triggered right now. Oh, my button is being pushed. This is why I'm acting like this way. So that's the first thing. If you can't catch yourself in this pattern, you cannot resolve it. So really get self-aware, increase your self-awareness big time, so you know that that's what's going on. You may not know why it's going on at first, but just know, oh, I'm really reacting here. I always say to people, try to be as you're present in your life and experiencing your life. Try at the same time to also be a little outside of it and observing yourself, like watching yourself and go and see, oh, what am I doing? How am I doing today? Like, what's going on with me today? And so when you have a moment where you're like, or really upset, reacting strongly, or I want to hide, I want to withdraw, go, oh, okay, I am really reacting to something here. I guess a button's being pushed. So when you catch it, that's the first thing. Catch, catch, catch. Okay, number 2 is identify the button. Like, what is this really about? What is going on with me that I am reacting in this way? What is this really, really about? And what you might do is to attempt to tie what's going on right now in the moment, what you're witnessing, what you're hearing, whatever is going on, and go, when have I been in this position before? Like, how is this like something I've been through before? Because whenever we're reacting strongly to something, there's a saying in the psychology world, when someone is hysterical, it's usually historical. Okay? So when someone's hysterical, when someone's reacting to something, it's usually partly part of their history. It's not just what's going on right now. It's usually related to a piece of their past. So that's what I want you to do, is to see, okay, when have I been in this situation before? When have I been in the presence of someone like this before? Where have I heard this before? When have I seen this before, experienced this before? And tie to what's going on right now to the past to give you more of a sense why it's so loaded for you. Okay? It's so loaded for you. You may have been through this button time and time and time again. This may be a pattern in your life. And so you may easily be able to identify it, but dig until you find it, because it is a huge clue on what to do next, right? So when you know, okay, this is the button, this is what's going on with me, this is what I'm reacting to, then I want you to ask yourself, what do I really need right now? What do I need right now? Because when we're upset in whatever format, something is lacking, or we think something is lacking. Okay, so ask yourself, what's missing? What do I need right now? What needs to be different for me right now to be at peace instead of feeling like this? Okay, so you may need comfort. You may need healthy communication. You may need your anxiety lowered. You may need to know you are safe. You may need to quit smoking. You may need to get your finances in order. I mean, it just depends on what category in your life this is. But ask yourself, what do I really need right now so I can be at peace? And really ask that over and over until you get some kind of response from yourself. Or what do I want instead is another way to look at it. I like to look at it as need, because I think when we're talking about triggers and buttons, we're talking about something quite painful. And so there's a need there. I need to feel loved. I need to feel good about myself. I need to feel like I deserve a better relationship than this, better living conditions than this. I need to resolve this grief and manage it differently so it doesn't knock me over the same way anymore. Okay, and then start moving toward that, what you know that you need or want. Start recreating your life in a way that helps you move toward what you actually want. Your life is up to you, and triggers are natural, buttons are natural. They just remind us. They're reminders that maybe we haven't completely healed from everything we've ever been through. And most people have these on occasion. And the more of these you're having, the more important it is that you address it, because it means you're not letting go and resolving things. You're letting things stack up. And so you're getting triggered, 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 triggered. So it's very, very important. The more reactive you are in your life, the more important it is to recreate what you need, more of what you need and want, so you can be at peace. Another part of this is, if you have not forgiven people who have harmed you in the past, hurt you in the past, it's very important that you find a way to let it all go. The past is over. You're safe from the past, and you don't have to relive the past. And the people that hurt you or harmed you don't have to have any power of your life anymore. So if you know that you have not released someone of how they've hurt you, learning to let go and letting go of your own mistakes, what you would label as a mistake, letting go and forgiving yourself, this will also help you clear up those triggers a great deal, especially those more complicated ones that aren't so obvious maybe as some of the examples that I've shared. The bottom line here is that I believe that we've come here to Earth to have a human experience that's full of freedom, growth, and joy, and love, yummy things, fun, adventure, excitement. We were never promised life would feel perfect, but we're meant to enjoy life. And so when you are not enjoying life in a moment or in a night or in a week, month, or a year, that is a signal that you are off track, and it's time to get back on track. So get in touch with what is going on that I have not let go of, what is still kind of haunting me and teasing me and tormenting me. How do I resolve it once I recognize it for what it is? How do I let it go? How do I turn it around so I can move forward and enjoy my life and move more toward what I do want and further away from what I don't want anymore? Because what we focus on expands and grows. So you want to constantly be focusing on what you do want, okay? What feels good to you. And that will help clear those triggers more. So if you have further questions or comments on this, please leave them here for me. I read your messages, I listen, and I do my best to respond. So if I can help further with any of this in any way, feel free to message me right here or privately in my private message area. And I'll do my best to serve you. Have a great day.